How you doing, folks? I want to progress the MG a little bit further today, so next job to do, I have to take off the wing on this side of the car and clean out everything in behind the wings and give it a coat of rust treatment, and then I want to go around and assess the rest of the bodywork. So let's get stuck in. When I suggested to my wife that I was going to come up and do a bit on the MG, it was a nice sunny day out. But of course, the heavens opened as soon as I even thought about it. So yeah, my intention today is that I want to actually try and push the car outside and give it a pressure wash. So hopefully the rain eases off. I mean, I know the car's going to be getting wet anyway, but I don't want to have to get wet too. Those of you who were playing along at home will remember just how easy it was to remove the wing on the other side of the car, so you can probably understand I'm really not looking forward to doing it on this side, but I have my good old friend the grinder with me as well, so at least we can do something with that. But first of all, I have the other thing I did bring this time is my impact gun, so I'm going to wang all the bolts out along there. I'm going to take out the 3 screws along there, get the ones inside the car, and then worry about the ones underneath the dashboard. But yeah, I'm going to just fast forward through all of this and you'll see the end result. Oh, you little bollocks. What the hell is that? A bracket! Ah, yeah, I know what that is. That is for the bonnet release cable. Oh, Jesus Christ. See these bolts? All over the bloody place. Ah, yeah. It's just as well I have a new bonnet release cable because that one is now bunched. So let's get our impact gun back on there and wang that one out now. There we go. You can see rust holes up at the top of the windscreen here in the scuttle. I'm putting my finger in a rust hole, so that's never a good sign. Well, it's what's to be expected. Now, I just want to make sure that this bonnet stay is not bolted onto the wing because I do not want it coming down on my head. No, it's just welded on there. That's grand. Okay, so I have all of the bolts along the top of the wing where they would be under the bonnet removed, and I have the bolts removed down around the front of the wing as well. Now the only other bolts left to do are the bolts inside the car behind the kick panel to the left of the passenger footwell, and then there's some screws down the very bottom of the wing where it mates up with the sill, and then there are those delightful bolts underneath the dashboard. So yeah, we have to remove all them still. So there's still quite a bit of a way to go. And obviously I still have to disconnect the wiring for the headlight as well. First thing we need to do is we need to remove the screws that hold on the kick panel. And just Phillips screws. I'm sure there's some machinist or someone out there who's going to tell me these are not Phillips screws, but they're like Koblenz Super Happy 9000 screws or something like that. Seems to be a million different types of these type of screws. Anyway, I'm calling them Phillips screws, and if they're not, well, you can call them whatever the hell you like. Whatever type of screws they are, they're coming out quite easily. Of course, that'll be the rock I shall perish on by saying that now. May as well take them all out. I know I can get at the bolts this way now by just having this part out. But I mean, the interior needs to come out of this car anyway, so why wouldn't I take the rest of them out? Oh, look! I found this comb, sir. I know it was a spoon really in the film, but anyway. As the voyage of discovery continues in this car, actually, I'm finding out more and more about it. I'm fully convinced, actually, it wasn't a man who owned it. It was a woman. And the reason I think that is simply because of the fact that I'm finding various areas where there's long blonde hair. Now, granted, he could have been a man with long blonde hair. Peter Stringfellow comes to mind. But anyway, get that idea out of my mind. The other thing is that, well, comb, I suppose. Men can use combs too. I don't know, I'm just putting pieces together here as I go along. But yeah, and that and the fact that it's purple. Again, you know, I'm not trying to be sexist here, folks, okay? So, you know, all of you woke people can relax. I'm just, you know, just doing a little bit of detective work as I go, and I could stand to be corrected. Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's get the impact gun onto those 3 bolts and see if they come out without shearing. I doubt very much they will. Passenger doors well seized up anyway. What are they? They're 7/16. I should have known by looking at them. Well, I'll be damned. One of them came out anyway, so at least that's one less bolt to drill out than I was expecting. Oh, you little beauty. Yes! All 3 of them came out without breaking. I'm doing a lot of this evening. I fancy my chance. There's a 4th one. There's a 4th one, and that's the one that's going to break. Hang on a second now, watch. Jesus. It came out. Well, holy God. Brilliant. That's fantastic. Okay, so that's the 4 bolts out from the wing. Now, of course, I'll get the wing off, and the wing itself will be rotten. But you look at least the bolts came out. And there's one up there, and there's another one down buried behind the glove box. So what we'll do is we'll actually take the glove box itself out. Hopefully it comes out relatively easy. But let's get that one out there first of all. The one that's kind of buried up at the top. I'm going to get a better light and see if we can see what we're doing. Because you guys can't see, I certainly can't see. Okay, so we're looking up underneath the dashboard. Like there's the hole where the pedal box would come through on the driver's side, or not the pedal box. The if it was a left-hand drive car, there's an access hole there. I think it's for the servo or something. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Suffice it to say, there is one of the bolts, and the other one is up in here. Like there's the back of that there is the back of the glove box, and then there's another bolt up there. So we need to remove them, so that's going to be a bit of fun. So let's see if we can get the impact gun onto at least that one. That'd be handy. I asked my wife to get me one of those electric Ryobi ratchets for my birthday. So yeah, that's next month. So I'll have it then, but of course I don't have it yet. So yeah, I'm actually using a 13mm socket here rather than using the, what do you call it, the 1/2-inch socket, because of the fact that the 13mm actually is a 6-point. I need to just there's a piece of bent up metal there I need to bend out of the way. It wasn't a piece of bent up metal at all, it was a piece of flaking paint. Tell me it came out. Oh, this would be a lifesaver if this one came out. Beautiful. It came out without breaking, folks. So that's one of 2. So the other one in around there we have to try and remove as well, but I'm going to do that when I have the glove box out. So let's do that. Stickers into the glove box. Cork Board Sailing Club. That's one. And no more boats. So I am going to guess that Exhibit A, tow bar, was used for towing a boat. Although I could be very wrong. I've been wrong before. I'm going to assume the Cork Board Sailing Club, by the way, is a sailing club for people in Cork who do board sailing, rather than people who do corkboard sailing. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Corkboard sailing could be a thing. I have no idea about sailing, so there you go. Alright, so I have the glove box pulled back in its aperture there, and if you see over there, just behind this conveniently placed bracket here that holds the dashboard in place, is a fending article. It's still a pain in the face to get at, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get a wobbly socket onto that, an extension, and wang it out with the impact gun. So let's see how we get on. After much swearing and trying to figure things out, I unbolted the dashboard in the one spot there, bent it down a little bit, and was able to get my extension in through there, and got that bloody bolt out, and fortunately enough the gods were shining on me because it came out. So that's those 2 bolts out, and they're the difficult ones, and the bolts down here came out as well. So we're getting there, we are getting there. So now the next thing to do is we need to take out the little bolts at the bottom of the wings, or at the bottom of the sill, I mean. Okay, so I have all the other bolts out. I have the wiring disconnected for the headlamp. I'm going to just leave the headlamp in for the moment because that's a whole other ballgame trying to remove that mess. It's another network of crusty seized in bolts and all this sort of stuff. So I'll just leave it for the moment. When I have it off, I'll take them out as well. I haven't got the one taken out of the old wing I removed from the other side either yet. So yeah, let's get the grinder at these lads, because I tried with the screwdriver and they didn't budge. I knew they weren't going to. Wishful thinking. Might actually try and drill them out rather than using the grinder. Let's see how we get on. I have the drill ready. I have to go and get the grinder. There's one. Didn't expect it to go through like that, but there you go. Alright, that's those 3 bolts out. They actually came out pretty easy with the drill. Now, there was one of my viewers was asking me in a comment there if I could talk about drilling out bolts. I'm not a professional when it comes to stuff like that. I tend to gunter them more than actually get them out properly. But what I will say is, start making, if you're going to drill out a bolt, a broken bolt, make sure you center punch it first. Get it perfectly center. Make sure you line up your drill perfectly. Start with a smaller size drill and work your way up gradually, okay? Don't just go gung-ho, and keep your speed in the right margin for what you're drilling. You'll know your speed is right with steel because it's coming out in nice curls rather than coming out in dust. And if it's coming out purple, you're going way too fast, and all that's happening is you're work hardening the steel, okay? So you're never going to get it out at that rate, and all that's happening is you'll just blunt your drill bit, okay? That's the main bit of advice I can give you. And then when you have it just at the point where you've kind of got it shelled out and there's just a shank of the drill left, get yourself a center punch and just break the rest of the bolt remaining in the hole away from the threaded hole, and then just kind of try and wind it out with long nose pliers or something like that. That's generally the way I go about it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But to tell you the truth, I find when you're doing it with a hand drill, it's not an exact science anyway. If you're doing it on a pillar drill, you can get it right more often than not. But with a hand drill, it's, unless you're a proper fitter or a machinist or whatever, you won't have the skill to do it in with a hand drill. So yeah, that's my advice. And by the way, easy outs are a goddamn waste of time, because all that ends up happening is when you put an easy out in, it expands the bolt out and it's definitely never moving then. I have the amount of times I've ever seen an easy out work, I could count on one hand. Anyway, right, enough talking shite here. Let's get this off. So I'll show you up close how much crap comes out of the bottom of this one. One of the big design flaws with MGs is that the road wheels throw dirt into the inside of the wings, so they rust from the inside out very easily. Apparently wheel arch liners are available. I've never seen them for sale, but case in point, folks. I mean, look at that, like. And that, I can assure you, is not bad. I've seen people with it literally piled up to the top of the wing. So that, when it's wet, it's a recipe for rust and corrosion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you guys pulled back, and we're going to pull the wing off the rest of the way, and we're going to have a look at it and see how it's looking. All right, moment of truth, folks. Is there a third bolt up here? I didn't think there was. Yes, there bloody is. Ah! In behind the dashboard there's another bolt. Feck it anyway. Right, you may remove that so. Or I've been fortunate so far anyway that just try and push that back up into out of the way. I'll bring it back when I have that out. I wish I hadn't stopped recording. I literally just cut the I literally just stopped the camera and opened the door to get at that bolt and the wing fell off. Anyway, right. Actually, it's accessed from the outside. You'd open the door and you get at it there. But fortunately enough, the wonderful world of corrosion has taken place here. So still though, it's not that bad. It's only the scuttle. And wing is in a fairly sorry state, but might still be salvageable. Let's get it out into the open air, we'll have a look at it. Things are not looking as bad as I would have expected. There is definitely rust and there's definitely welding needed, but as seems to be the case with this car, it reveals an awful lot more positive surprises than negative surprises. So let's have a look here. Now you'll see around the inner wing, just having a look around the place where those 4 bolts came from the inside, there's a bit of surface corrosion, and obviously the kind of deflector panel that goes down the inside is rotten, but that's what happens with them. They're just it's just a bad design, it really is. All of this here is just surface corrosion and stuff like that that's been sitting here, and what it basically needs is just needs a good clean. So now that I have both wings off, I can actually set about cleaning the whole front end of the car. But what I want to do first of all is I want to take the wiring harness out as well, because there's so many splices and bodges in this wiring harness that this car is never going to work properly if I don't tackle it. But yeah, it's all pretty positive in fairness. Like, you know, I'm pretty happy. So we'll have a look at that. We'll get that all tidied up. But what I want to do here today is I also want to go around the rest of the car with a grinder with a flap wheel on it and just touch up, go over any scabs and see how many of them actually go through and how many of them are only superficial and don't need any further attention other than to spray with some etch primer or something along those lines. So yeah, we'll do that now anyway and see. The wing itself is actually looking a lot better than it did on the other side. Like all of this down here, that's pretty much solid metal. I mean, there's a few little areas where it's going to need attention, but to be honest with you, by the time you grind that back, it's probably going to be all right. This is the worst of the areas, but it's inside. I mean, it doesn't even you don't even see that. So what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to patch that fairly easily. I mean, and as I said, because of the fact that it's not visible, I don't need to be as tidy with my welds. And then you have a look up here, like obviously, you know, there's corrosion there, but like the bolts came out, you know, that kind of thing. And by the time you have a look around the outside, it's not bad at all. Like, it really isn't. I think I'm going to get away with doing an awful lot less to this wing than I would have done to the other wing. The nice thing is the fact that then it means I get to keep the original wing on at least one side of the car. I could have probably kept the one on the other side as well, but there was an awful lot of work that needed to be done on it, so you know, it just wasn't worth my while. That one there, on the other hand, though, it's much better. So, which is surprising, incidentally, because if you look at the back of the car here, on the same side, on the left-hand side, at the back of the car, it's rotten. I mean, it's the worst. It's the worst part of the car is this bit here around the rear light cluster. I have been tearing my bloody hair out looking for this stupid UJ for the steering shaft. Finally found it. It was in a bucket of cleaning materials I had. Why I put it there, I do not know, but it just goes to show I need to be a little bit more careful about where I put stuff for this car, because when it comes to putting it back together again, I'm never going to find anything. The only thing I will say is most of the fasteners are going to be getting replaced anyway, so as far as fasteners go, it's not really all that important. But for other things, you know, like steering shaft UJs, they're 65 quid. So I'm glad I found that and didn't need to go replacing it for just my own stupidity. But the thing is now is that I can now reinstate the steering, because I've been just shoving the wheels left and right the whole time. It's looking pretty naked now without the front bumper or wings on it, but it really makes the front suspension look the business now. Still not 100% finished on that. I know I have to torque up bolts and put the front anti-roll bar on, stuff like that. But for the most part, that's all done. The front bumper is ready to go back on. That left-hand wing is, what I'll do is, I'll just bolt it on with, say, 2 bolts, for example, and I will bring it up to, when I'm getting the car painted, I'll just leave it like that. I'll leave the light fittings and everything like that out of it, leave the bumper off. I'm not going to be painting this car myself, so when I undo something bodywork wise, I'm not going to put it back on until I've actually had the car painted. What I will do though, on the other hand, is I'm gonna dress up the engine bay, and I'm gonna get the engine bay done. I'll probably paint it with a rattle can. It'll be fine. It'll look okay, you know. By the time I've taken the wiring harness out, it should be the job. The other thing I will be doing myself is I will be painting the inner wings. I will be putting the Hydrate 80 on, and then 2-pack epoxy, and then a coat of Schutz. So that will protect the inner wings, and it means that then whoever does the painting for me doesn't really need to worry about the inner structure of it. And plus, the other side of it as well is, my thinking on these things is that I will happily spend much more time on something like this than somebody who's on the clock. Yeah, okay, they'll have all the tools and everything like that to do it, but I have a Schutz gun and stuff like that, so I can do it that way. So I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull out the wiring harness now, while before I actually go down the route of painting anything, or painting anything, or cleaning anything, because the wiring harness can be cleaned separately. So it's also going to need a hell of a lot of work in itself, and I'll get a proper wiring diagram, because yeah, you can label everything up, but then you're assuming that everything was connected correctly in the first instance, and it probably was, but there you go. I mean, look at that. I just had to pulling out a length of wire from God knows what. So, you know, I mean, that's obviously not right, and it can be right and will be right. So, you know, it looks to be in decent enough order for the most part. And people curse and swear at Lucas Electrical Systems as being the Prince of Darkness and everything like that, but when they left the factory, they worked, and if you put them right and you make sure that they're kept in factory standard, they will still work. Fortunately enough, most of the wiring is actually up one side of the car, so the only thing I need to do is I need to just get it through there's a hole in the front panel here. I have to try and get everything through first of all. Okay, so that's the left side of the car, so that'll be the, you know, the horn lights, the indicators, all that sort of jazz. And there's a crimp there as well. That could be for the what do you call it, the ballast resistor for the coil, but I'm not sure yet. I know that kind of runs around the engine bay, so it's really just the length of wire that it just puts a bit of a resistance on it. So now I'm going to take off this. I'm going to try and take off this relay. I'm not going to take off that relay. Yes, I bloody am going to take it off. There we go. Ah, Jesus. More corrosion. So the trick here is to leave the likes of relays and the fuse box and stuff like that connected. At least that way then you know what you're dealing with. You can do them one at a time then at a later stage. Okay, so I have the wiring harness peeled back in the engine bay anyway, so that's pretty good at that. Now it continues on, it branches into two, and one part of it goes down under the car and down towards the back, and the other one goes inside the car. So obviously, you know, I don't want to have to kind of get too deep into that sort of stuff, but I will say this much: it's in much better condition than many other classic car wiring harnesses I've ever seen. So it'll probably only need a little bit of tidying and stuff like that, but if I'm going to do this job, I may as well take the harness out, you know. I mean, so you can see here, for example, like there's been definitely a little bit of messing going on there, I think it's fair to say. So, you know, I mean, obviously we need to put the correct ends on those wires, but like if you go down the other end, it's all wrapped, you know. The wrapping is fine. There's connections for the horn there and everything. There's two horns on it, one on either side. Fuse panel, stand to be tidied up and all that as well. They're a constant source of problems in MGs and that. But like, I mean, you take the spade connectors off, you clean them all up. Same with your relays and all that as well. Just have a look inside them. Even you can actually take the covers off and see what the contacts are like inside. These type of things. There's a big bunch of. Yeah, actually, what I could probably do is disconnect the front harness from the back there. Might be a way to go. So they're all connectors there. If I can get away without having to disconnect all that, then great. You know, I might just try and get all of the wiring out of the car without having to do that. And you can see there, that's where it goes off into the inside of the car through a grommet there. So yeah, I mean, that's all pretty good. So yeah, I mean, look, progress is being made. I'll pick it up another day anyway, and just go down the route of kind of cleaning everything in the inner wings, getting it all painted. You know, I want to try and find a place where I can get the paint mixed up for under the bonnet, because if I can get that painted and spruced up and everything like that, then it means I can kind of get the gearbox back in, get the engine, make a start in the engine, get the engine rebuilt. And I can assure you, I'm really, really looking forward to getting the engine rebuilt, actually. I'm looking forward to doing that now. I know it'll be difficult. I'll be doing it myself. I've got the head work done already. I'll be doing the bottom end, changing bearings, have new piston rings. I'll hone it, do all that sort of stuff. So it should be pretty good then when I'm finished, hopefully anyway. And look, at worst case scenario, you know, if it still doesn't work out, I've still got a serviceable head. You know, I can strip the bottom end again, get it bored out and get the bottom end put together properly, and you reuse the head. So, you know, I don't think it's going to come to that, to tell you the truth. But yeah, I mean, if you have a look around the engine bay here now, you'll see that by the time I've given this all a coat of paint, and you know, we're kind of like everything is properly cleaned and all that, it should start to look pretty good, and we should start to kind of see the front end of this car coming together. And it'll be transformative, I think would be the word I'd use. Off camera, I am going to finish stripping out the engine bay. I want to take out the oil cooler. I want to take out any extra pipe work or anything like that that's still under there, and I want to get it all basically cleaned and ready for painting. And when it's ready for painting, I'll bring it back then, and we'll have a look at it then. I don't think I'll bore you with pressure washing it or anything like that. I was hoping to get that done today, but time was against me, and I should have known taking that wing off was going to take a bit of time, you know. So yeah, look, I'm happy with the progress I've made today. So I'll pick this up in a future video. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll chat to you soon.